So I still made that same justification for Metallica that I had previously for ACDC. Now I'm saying, well, I listen to Metallica, sure, but I don't listen to Cannibal Corpse. Look at those album covers. They're leading kids to devil worship and stuff, and I can't be involved in devil worship. I'm still, I may be a sinner for listening to Metallica, but I'm still a good Christian. Welcome, metalheads, to Heavy Metal Philosophy. I'm your host, your sommelier of extreme metal and blue-collar philosopher, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's Riff of the Week. Also, for bands that have reached out to me, I have a special message for you at the end of the episode, so make sure you stick around for that. This week, I want to talk about how I got into extreme metal. If you are a subscriber on YouTube, or if you follow on social media, you will have seen that I got my own column in Metal Digest. So I'm not just doing reviews and interviews now. Now I've got a monthly column called, aptly, Heavy Metal Philosophy. And on the first entry, the very first article in my monthly column, I basically introduced Heavy Metal Philosophy and what it is we do here and what the origin story is. I'll have a link for that in the description. But that got me thinking about my origins in metal. So I want to have a conversation with you all in the comments, social media. You can send me an email, heavymetalphilosophy@gmail.com, whatever. But this is how I got started. A lot of people will say Metallica. And Metallica is a big part of my story. But no, for me, it was ACDC. I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household with my grandparents. My early childhood was with my grandparents while my father was deployed, and we went to Southern Baptist churches pretty much every day, not just on Sunday. My grandmother would find other churches that were having services during the week throughout the county, and I just lived and breathed the church during my early childhood. And pretty much everything that you can imagine that's awesome was a sin. We got to eat red velvet cake, and that was about the most pleasure and stimulation that I ever got. Almost every television program on TV was sinful and the devil's taking over the TV. I was once told that I was asking about these horror books, and I was once told, oh, well, the only book you need is the Bible. Obviously rock and roll is out of the question. And I knew that my dad listened to rock and roll, and my grandparents, his parents, heavily disapproved of it, which made me wonder, like what is he getting out of listening to this music where he's willing to defy, the authority in our lives? Like, people in the neighborhood didn't threaten to tell my dad if I did something wrong. They threatened to tell my grandmother because the wrath of God would come down if I disappointed her. Anyway, when Dad would come home from his deployments, he would listen to like Bad Company, Judas Priest, Aerosmith, and it was kind of naughty to go around with Dad and listen to rock and roll. But when I heard ACDC, Back in Black, it was so heavy. It was so much heavier than all the other, like I said, Bad Company, Aerosmith, rock and roll that I was used to hearing. I heard that and I was like, holy shit, what is this? And it had this evil sort of vibe to it, not like what I listen to now, like Behemoth, but for me, back then, growing up fundamentalist Christian, I couldn't believe. Matter of fact, there's a lyric on one of the songs that says, if you're into evil, you're a friend of mine. And I went, what? He said that? I couldn't believe it. And I would sneak around and listen to ACDC when my grandparents couldn't tell that that's what was going on. And, I remember going to church services, like the youth pastor would put on a documentary about how there's secret devil worship in rock and roll, that KISS actually stands for Knights in Satan's Service, and ACDC is like Antichrist devil child. And they just found ways to sow this like secret cabal that's, pulling the strings behind the scenes with this rock music to try to lure us over into devil worshiping. They talked about it like it was a drug. And you know what? In some ways it was. Because there was a lot of behaviors that I didn't sneak around to do, but I did sneak around to listen to rock. Fast forward a little bit later, I'm in elementary school, and My dad's out of the military now, so I'm living with my dad, but still, my grandmother was the matriarch of the family, and even when we lived in another town, her presence loomed large over the family, and we still kept everything on the down low. And I remember that there was these kids in the neighborhood. The older brother could drive. He went to high school, and so he would take us neighborhood kids to school in the morning. And one of the kids, also in high school, would listen to Metallica all the time. And all the kids would tell him, you got to stop listening to that devil worshiping music. That's still in my mind, and to me at that point in time, Metallica was the next level above ACDC. Like, yeah, maybe I listen to ACDC and Aerosmith, but I don't listen to Metallica because I don't go to full-on devil worshiping. That's what I thought as an elementary school kid because of the way I was raised. And I remember this kid was heartbroken because his girlfriend broke up with him. And everybody was saying, that devil worship music's got a hold of you. And he took his Sony Walkman with the CD, threw it against the side of the vehicle on the way to school that morning. Goes, you're right, it's because of the devil worshiping crap. He was furious because his girlfriend broke up with him. Well, not a few days later, he's right back to listening to Metallica. And I was looking at him like, I thought this was like devil worshiping music that caused you to lose your girlfriend that you love so much. How are you still listening to this? I didn't understand. But at that point, not only was I still unwilling to give it a chance, but also I didn't have the means to give it a chance. I was an elementary school kid. It's not like I could just go out and buy a CD. We didn't have cable, so I couldn't watch MTV. I wasn't allowed to watch MTV anyway. So it was still a few more years. But in a few more years, I was hanging out with another friend who did have cable, did have MTV. And, of course, we were listening to all the different rock music that MTV would play, but they didn't really play hard metal so much. But they would play Metallica, and one day the video for One came on. And that dark black and white, and plus how cool Jason Newsted looked with his undershave and his head banging. And it's all good, I'm like, wow, this is cool. But it wasn't until that end part, I changed forever in that moment. The first time I heard that blast beat, it was over. My life was forever changed, and I would never, ever be the same again. I thought, holy shit, that's why that kid was all into Metallica like this. This is the most incredible thing that I've ever heard in my life. I thought ACDC was heavy. I thought that was evil. Look at these guys in black and white, and there's images of war, and there's this dude with no arms and legs writhing in pain on the table, and just da-da-da-da-da, and Kirk's solo with the two-hand tapping. I'd never heard anything like that before. It was evil, it was fast, it was technical, it was impressive. It just took a hold of me, and forever, and Justice for All will forever have a special place in my heart for what it did to me. And from that point on, I couldn't just keep it in the shadows anymore. Of course, I didn't tell my grandmother, hey, Grandma, I'm listening to Metallica now. But, okay, I'm in the metal. That's what I am. There's no decisions to be made. There's no resisting this. I'm not like picking an identity. This is a part of me now. I can't unhear this. I can't decide to not like this. It is completely outside of my power. And this is just me now. Well, this is before the Black Album. Right before the Black Album. And at that point in time, I hadn't got the courage yet to admit to myself that I didn't believe in Noah's Ark. Because you can't question any part of the Bible where I'm from. It's all the Word of God. Every bit of it is literally true. So even though I'd crossed over and was listening to Metallica now and Megadeth and, Pantera, and there was still certain boundaries I wouldn't cross. And this is right in the satanic panic of the 90s. This is when Bob Dole is losing his mind about Cannibal Corpse.
When Hollywood's dream factories turn out nightmares of depravity. You know what I mean. I mean natural-born killers, true romance, films that revel in the mindless violence and loveless sex. I'm talking about groups like Cannibal Corpse, Ghetto Boys, and Two Live Crew.
And I remember seeing those album covers going, yeah, that is fucked up. Like, yeah, that must be what the devil worshiping is. Like, I'm only listening to Metallica. So I still made that same justification for Metallica that I had previously for ACDC. Now I'm saying, well, I listen to Metallica, sure, but I don't listen to Cannibal Corpse. Look at those album covers. They're leading kids to devil worship and stuff. And I can't be involved in devil worship. I'm still, I may be a sinner for listening to Metallica, but I'm still a good Christian. What a waste of my life. So then fast forward to later on in the 90s. And back then, all of your friends would have like this Trapper Keeper type book with a zipper. And inside that were sleeves for all of your CDs. And a lot of those CDs would be burned CDs. They wouldn't be the actual albums. And then Sharpie, you would write the band name and the album name on there. I had a lot of Nine Inch Nails albums like that. Well, a friend of mine was letting me look through his CD book. And I saw this CD written in Sharpie. And it said, Opeth, Blackwater Park. And if I would have known who Opeth was and what kind of music that they played, I probably wouldn't have listened to it. I probably would have avoided it, said, nope, I draw the line at Metallica. That's as far down as I'll go. Well, I didn't know that. So I was like, what is this band? This sounds intriguing. Opeth, what kind of name is that? Blackwater Park, where is that? Is that like an evil park? So it piqued my curiosity. I put it in, and immediately, it wasn't as dramatic as And Justice for All, but still, from that point on, I was changed forever because I had heard other bands do the death metal growl, and I thought, I can't understand what they're saying. I don't know. It sounds bad. Metallica is heavy enough, is what I used to think. Why would you need to go past that? Metallica's heavy, and when you go past that, the vocals, I just can't understand what they're saying. But Opeth broke through because at this point I was already playing guitar. Now I'm becoming a guitar nerd, and I heard what they were doing on the guitar. I was blown away. I was like, wow, no band sounds like this. They've got this like parts that sound like the soundtrack of the first Diablo game, but then there's screaming guitar leads over it and like super heavy riffs, but then like really beautiful singing. And the songs, they didn't have that verse, chorus, bridge, chorus song structure. I'd never heard anything like that before, other than like pretentious prog that I wasn't really into because it wasn't heavy. This was heavy and artistic. And I just was like, who are these guys? And I had to buy every album that they've had. And yes, my first experience with Opeth was that burned CD with the Sharpie written on it, but I've bought Blackwater Park twice now. So, and every other album that they have. I was obsessed with Opeth after that. And then this is going to be funny, but the final nail in the coffin was a cartoon show that was on Adult Swim called Metallica. I found out that they were going to make a cartoon about metal, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. And then I heard the way that the band Deathclock sounds, and I was like, this is incredible, because it had that sort of old school Metallica guitar harmonies, Guitar Hero sort of vibe to it, but it was super heavy with the death metal vocals. And between Opeth and Deathclock, that's what okayed it for me to listen to that kind of music. Those were my gateway bands into the extreme. And by this point, Pandora's a thing. So now, instead of I have to rely on people to have a booklet with the CDs in it for me to find new music, now I can just crank up Pandora and it will recommend bands like that. So I put Deathclock in there because I loved it so much. And next thing I know, I'm hearing Arch Enemy, I'm hearing Amon Amarth, and I thought to myself, oh, that must be what Brendan listens to, because Amon Amarth, that's what they sound like. Deathclock, but they're older, so actually Deathclock sounds like Amon Amarth. That's where this comes from. He must be a huge fan of this band. And then at this point, I've finally admitted to myself that the story of Samson makes no sense. And I realize, either it's the word of God or it's not. I've always been told that every word of it is true. So if I don't believe in any one part of it, then I must not believe in any part of it, because I was told it is the word of God. So how can I say, yeah, but that whole humanity spreading again from one family and I had two of each animal, even though that sounds ridiculous to me, I have to still believe in that, or else the whole thing is gone. And that I finally was able to admit to myself, like, I don't think I really believe any of this. And, you know, I've always been wondering, like, what would have happened if I'd have been born somewhere else. I just thought I was lucky before. It's like, thank God I was born here. Thank God I had my grandparents, or I'd be burning in hell with everybody else. And then I realized, like, no, you know, only a few million people are born in the South of the United States in a generation. You know, there's billions of people all over the world, and I'm finally admitting to myself. And that's when I was able to go, well, I should listen to this other music that I was afraid of listening to. And that's when I got into Cannibal Corpse. And I would have never, ever, ever been able to do this myself. But I listened to The Satanist by Behemoth 10 years before. I think it was 2014 when that album came out. 10 years before that. No way would I have been able to. I would have seen that album title and go, well, that's it. Yeah, I might listen to Cannibal Corpse, but I mean, there it is, plain as day on the album. It's called The Satanist. So yeah, maybe Cannibal Corpse is misunderstood. They're not really devil worshippers, but this guy's like putting it out there. Yeah, dude, fucking all the songs are about Satan. Okay, this is actually where the line has been. I've been drawing the line way back here all this time, but actually this is where it's at. But thankfully for me, at that point in time, I didn't care about that anymore, because I don't even believe in the devil to begin with. So I listened to it and I was like, holy shit, this album is incredible. And I promised myself from that point on, I'm going to listen to what I like, and I'm not going to let any of my preconceived notions stop me from that, except for my hatred of Nazis. Y'all can fuck off. I'm half minority, so yeah, fuck you. No Nazi shit. You might be going, oh, well, you'll change your mind later. You just drawing the line up. No, y'all want me to not exist. Fuck off. And that's where I'm at now. I am completely free to love the music that I love so much. And now I get to cover it on this podcast and for Metal Digest. And I could not be more happy about that. So that brings me to what I talked about at the beginning of the episode for bands that have reached out to me. I want to express this clearly, and I hope y'all all see this. First of all, I apologize that I haven't messaged all of y'all back. I try to answer all the comments in YouTube as best as I can. You know, maybe I don't interact with the negative comments, but everybody else, I try to comment back. I try to answer all my emails. I am not too big time to respond. Dude, I've got less than 1,000 subscribers. I'm not making any money at this. I swear I am not too big time to respond. In fact, the exact opposite is true. I'm too small time. I've got 4 jobs. So next time I get on here and go, I'm a philosopher, I've read so many books, feel free to go, you pretentious prick, you're a dumbass philosopher. Ain't you got 4 jobs and only 2 of them pay the rent and put food on the table? Yeah, I'm a fucking idiot. However, I've got 4 jobs. I've got my day job that takes up the most of my time, that pays for the cabin in the woods. Then the farm work around here that puts food on the table. Then I write for Metal Digest, and I got the podcast. There's so many hours in the day. I haven't been able to watch any of the new Marvel shows on Disney Plus. You know, I haven't seen the Batman yet. I want to see those movies. I haven't seen Prey yet. It's free on Hulu. I love The Predator. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I haven't seen it yet. I just do too many things. I'm too small time. Until I'm able to quit my day job, it's going to be like this. So I'm not ignoring y'all. I promise. I need to do a better job of at least responding and being like, I see it. I'm trying to get to it. That's just the way it is. And I'm getting assignments from Metal Digest to cover the bands that they want me to cover, and I want to do the best job I can there. Now, with all that being said, I'm not saying I'm not going to cover y'all. I'm saying that I've got to make some improvements and make some time for some things, and I've got big plans for that. I got plans to rearrange this studio so it's more efficient as it stands right now. I got a setup for podcasting. I got a setup for working. I got a setup for doing interviews, and I need to consolidate all of that so I don't have to spend time changing the setup. So it's probably not going to happen in the next week or so. Like I said, I'm busy as shit, but I'm working on it. I'm going to rearrange the studio. I've got some more interviews coming up. Once those are done, that should free some time up. So I promise I'm going to improve this podcast. I'm going to get more efficient. So I would highly encourage you all to subscribe, because it's only going to get better from here. And I promise you 2 pieces of metal content every week in return for your subscription. Thank you so much. Now let's do the riff of the week. Since Metallica was such a big part of my becoming an extreme metal fan, and probably for most of you all as well too, they're like the ultimate gateway band. How many times have you told somebody, oh yeah, I listen to metal, and they go, yeah, I like metal sometimes, and they bust out Metallica's Black Album, and that's the only metal album they got. Yeah, check it out, I like metal. You know, dude, I love that album too, but it's not the same. But in honor of Metallica, and also in fear of Metallica, because I know I can't just play some Metallica music on this podcast without the algorithm gods striking me through the heart. So I'm going to try a little experiment here. Here's a cover of the song that changed my life forever, One, by the band First to 11. Let's see if this little loophole gets through. Thank you so much. Remember, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.